Bonjour, hello everyone. It's Serge speaking. I was asked to provide a eulogy at my mom's funeral, which occurred on Wednesday this week, which would have been, I believe, February 15th. What I'm going to do is I'll read it in French as I did it when I presented in church. And then I'll give you the English version. I'll just translate it right after. But I'll start in French because I did it in French first. Donc, je vais présenter ça. C'est les éloges, mon éloge pour maman. Donc, je vais commencer en disant que tout le monde, quand les gens ont su que j'allais parler pour maman, tout le monde m'a dit, OK, bon, mais avant tout, maman était gentille et accommodante avec tout le monde. Et ça, je suis d'accord, je vais certainement pas contredire ça. Par contre, maman, faut pas oublier que c'est une femme qui était fonceuse, avec un sourire et un rire qui était contagieux. Donc, si tu l'entendais rire ou si tu étais là lorsqu'elle riait ou qu'elle faisait un petit peu le job, tu allais rire. C'était une garantie. Mais maman était aussi une femme d'affaires qui savait relever les défis et qui n'avait pas peur de le faire. C'est-à-dire que maman, quand elle avait ses commerces, c'était pas habituel qu'une femme soit la gérante, la propriétaire, c'était elle qui était responsable de ça. Donc, tu n'allais surtout pas dire à maman que tu n'allais pas faire quelque chose tout simplement parce que tu étais une femme. Maman est une femme d'affaires, puis elle faisait très bien son travail. Donc, un de mes premiers souvenirs, c'était de travailler au premier commerce, que moi je connaissais en tout cas, avec maman, qu'elle appartenait. Ça s'appelait la librairie Trouve Tout. Et je travaillais à la caisse enregistreuse, j'avais peut-être 10 ans, peut-être 11 ans, et j'étais sur un escabeau, un genre de petite boîte essentiellement, et parce que j'étais tellement petit qu'il fallait que je sois aidé, on va dire, avec un petit peu de hauteur. Et c'est moi qui poinçonnais la caisse enregistreuse, puis maman regardait tout bonnement, me surveillait. Et ça, c'était la première occasion, de maintes occasions, où j'ai travaillé pour maman et avec maman. Puis d'ailleurs, c'est elle qui m'a donné mes premiers débuts importants. C'est elle qui m'a appris comment travailler, comment être déterminé, comment être fiable et comment être serviable avec les gens. Mais il faut aussi oublier que maman était aussi très pratique et c'est elle qui m'a aussi appris à faire ma lessive et la vaisselle. Ça, je ne pouvais pas passer à côté de ça. Donc, puis, il y a quelque chose d'autre. Maman, c'est d'elle que j'ai vraiment appris ma patience. Puis je sais qu'occasionnellement, la patience, elle n'est pas là, mais celle que j'ai, c'est maman qui l'a apprise. Et d'ailleurs, pourquoi je dis ça, c'est qu'en tant que jeune garçon et même jeune adolescent, j'ai passé pas mal de temps à frapper contre ses casseroles, puis ses pots, puis ses plats, avec des cuillères à bois, puis faire un train d'enfer. Je suis surpris que je n'ai jamais rien brisé avec tous mes solos de batterie en tant qu'enfant. Mais maman, pas un mot de travers, pas mal patiente, pas d'arrêt de ça. Ça ne dérangeait pas. Donc, c'est peut-être une des raisons pourquoi je joue encore la batterie à ce jour. Donc, je vais continuer en disant que je vais partager quelques faits, ou un fait au moins, qui va peut-être surprendre beaucoup de gens. Maman cuisinait très bien. Comme plusieurs de ses sœurs d'ailleurs. Mais maman le faisait en dépit du fait qu'elle détestait cuisiner. Puis elle m'a dit ça, noir et blanc, une bonne journée. Je restais un peu bête, mais maman n'aimait pas cuisiner pour autant, c'est juste qu'elle pouvait le faire. C'était pas compliqué. Mais comme ces couvertures piquées, qui étaient des œuvres d'art, maman disait que toute chose qui mérite d'être faite devait être bien faite. Et ce, dès le début. Donc, c'était pas à reprendre et refaire. Tu le fais bien la première fois. Et c'est comme ça que ça doit être fait. Maman ne se pétait jamais les bretelles. Puis moi, je pense qu'elle n'avait pas besoin de le faire parce que ce qu'elle faisait, elle le faisait bien. Que ce soit l'ouvrage, la cuisine, les couvertes, faire les gens rire, elle le faisait bien. Et pour terminer, maman m'a appris 3 leçons importantes. Comment aimer, entièrement. Toujours demander pourquoi, pas pour donner du fil à retordre, pas pour être embêtante, mais pour apprendre. Maman était toujours curieuse. Et se dire pourquoi pas. C'est-à-dire saisir les occasions parce qu'on ne sait jamais quand elles pourraient se présenter. And now I'll try to do it in English without crying. I'll do my best. So, I began Mom's eulogy by saying that when I was, when people were thinking about Mom, I was told how often Mom was kind and accommodating with everyone. And I'm not going to disagree with that at all. But my eulogy was more so to provide, I'm going to say maybe insight into what I remember about Mom and what I thought about Mom. So Mom was a very determined and, I want to say, confident woman with quite the smile and quite the laugh. So it was really hard for you to be in her presence. And if she started, let's say, acting up and having a good time, you were soon going to follow. You would be laughing in short order. Now, Mom was also a very savvy businesswoman, and she knew about challenges, and she knew how to face them head on. Mom was, in my opinion, before her time because she was a business owner in the 80s, so early 80s, and even up to late 80s. In a time where it wasn't frequent for women to be in charge and to run a business. And Mom did so with verve. So she knew what she was doing. And you didn't tell her she couldn't do something because she was a woman. That was not going to end well. She might not have told you to go pound sand, but she might have ended the conversation and she would have figured it out and she would have still done it correctly and with gusto. So, and actually one of my first, I'm going to say, memories of working was alongside Mom as a kid. I think I was maybe 10 or 11, and it was at our bookstore called La Librairie Trouve Tout, which roughly or literally translated means the find it all bookstore. Essentially, that's what that means in French, if I really literally translated it that way. And I was actually manning the cash register, and I had to have a little step ladder or step stool to step on so I could actually punch the buttons in and the amounts. And Mom was there just watching me, making sure I wasn't, making mistakes or overcharging or whatever it was. But that's my first experience. That's the first memory that's really clear to me. I can see myself doing it. And that was one of many occasions where I worked for Mom and with Mom. And she gave me my first, let's say, many of my first important experiences in terms of learning how to work, learning how to be determined, learning how to be reliable, and learning how to be able to be very approachable and to work well with the public, with people in general. But let's not forget that Mom was also very practical, and she taught me how to do, obviously, laundry and dishes. So it wasn't all just punching in numbers at a cash register. So the other thing that I remember is Mom was particularly patient with me, and why I can say that with great confidence. I spent many, and I mean many years as a kid and even as a teenager banging on pots and pans with all kinds of wooden spoons and whatever it was. I never broke a pan. I have no idea how I didn't do it because trust me, I did a lot of drum solos as a kid, and Mom never, not once, said, "Hey, stop, it's too loud, you're annoying me." And trust me, like, this was not a couple of taps. This was like minutes upon minutes upon whatever, and it was frequent. And Mom would just be like, "Oh, yeah, take that pot. Yeah, that pot's a bigger one. Yeah, take that one. Oh, that must be good." And she'd just give her, like, no problem. She'd always knew that the storm would subside, hopefully soon. But she wouldn't try to, control the storm, let's put it that way. So, and now I'm just going to keep going with maybe something that you wouldn't have known from Mom, in the sense that it wouldn't have maybe crossed your mind. Mom cooked very well, and as many of her sisters do. You know, that's something that women in Mom's generation, for sure, they learned, and that's what they did. But Mom actually despised, I mean, hated cooking. She did not like to cook. But going with Mom's motto of anything that's worth doing needs to be done well and from the get-go. So you don't do things halfway. If you didn't know how to do it properly, you wouldn't present it. You would start it over, right? So even though she didn't like to cook, when she did it well. Just like pretty much if it was work or if it was quilting, she worked hard to get it right. And she did. And that's why I added, as part of the eulogy, how Mom wasn't one to puff her chest out and brag. She wasn't a braggart because she didn't have to. When she did something, it was done right. Now, lastly, and this is the part where I think I almost cried in French in the church, so I won't do it, or I'll try not to on the video. So this is my first take of this, and I'm just trying to make sure everyone can understand what I'm saying. Mom, lastly, she taught me three very important life lessons. How to love. I'm going to try to get the right word in English. Unconditionally or entirely. She also always questioned things. So she always said, you know, ask why. And not ask why to be difficult or to be contrary or to be, you know, a jerk about something. It was to ask why so she could learn. Mom was always curious, always trying to figure things out. And lastly, don't forget to say, why not? And it was in the sense of, when an occasion arises, take a chance and try it, because you never knew if it would come back. And that is my eulogy for Mom.